Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Cold Blooded After Dark. I'm your host, Travis from Python Susie, and not with me tonight is Raphael, aka Doc from Boyd's R Us. What is up with Doc? I know people have been asking that. What's going on with him? How's he doing? Well, here's the deal. So, Doc has gone on a special mission to UK to save a 5-legged hedgehog from certain death. And unfortunately, he can't be with us tonight. Things aren't going as well as he had expected them to go during this mission. So we don't know if we're going to see him again. We hope we do. And if he does come back, we'll tackle the 5 pillars of breeding success or business success, as he put it, the next episode. But until then, we've got an intermediary. We've got somebody that can come in, kind of pitch hit, do some things that nobody else dare do. And I think you guys know who he is. He's got no balls. Well, he does have balls, but we're not talking about him tonight. So we've got Zach. No balls. That's right. You know him from Husbandry Pro, Reptile Ads, Par Parts Pristine Pythons. Is that your other business?
Yeah, Par Parts Pristine Pythons. That's the breeding business.
That's the breeding business.
Yep.
As you guys can see, he's one of our sponsors, and he's a co-host. Zach, thanks for showing up and filling in for Doc. How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you doing tonight?
Oh, it's Tuesday. Made 75 cents on the dollar today at work. And now I'm here doing the Python things, doing a podcast, which I never ever thought I would be doing in my life. So, yeah, things are good.
Well, the reason we're not talking about ball pythons today is because if you make 75 cents on the dollar in ball pythons, you're doing good. So we're going to talk about other stuff that, maybe we can make 100 cents on the dollar.
That's right. So speaking of other things, let's just get right into it. What else do you have in your collection? Besides, what are you drinking there?
Lazzaroni Amaretto. I was told it's supposed to be like one of the good original Amarettos. I was doing a sample swig to see if my daughter watered it down. It tasted fine, so we'll pour a glass.
All right. What else? I know you're into carpets. We'll talk about those. What else do you have in your collection that people might not know too much about?
Oh, I have to immediately mention my new pickup because just this weekend I picked up my first green tree python. And I'm super excited about that. Got a nice female. She's a captive bred from a wild-caught Biak to a wild-caught Manakawari. I'm probably messing up those names. But she's already 2 years old. And, dude, she is like a puppy dog sweet. That's what got me into the green trees is I've been doing all this research for a long time. But recently, my buddy Jason Amos and Justin from Ozark Mountain Morph, they've kind of tunneled down on the green tree side. And me and Amos hang out a lot. And so I've been hanging out with him and looking at all these green trees and they're all nice. That's why I never got them before because I'm like, oh, they're mean and they bite you. Yeah, they're pretty. I don't want something I can't play with.
That's what I always heard. You can't pick them up. They're just to look at because they'll bite the crap out of you.
Yeah. It's apparently they're just talking about imports because I've only seen a couple that are kind of nippy that aren't imports, the imports are almost always that I've seen have been, horrible. And you definitely don't want to get bit by those things, but once I started seeing all these nice captive bred collections with these, what do they call them? The fancy ones.
I couldn't tell you. The only thing I know about green tree pythons is that they're green and arboreal. They're pretty.
Designer, yeah, the designer ones. And I'm sitting there talking about them being mean, and every place I go to, they're just pull the perch off. Oh, what are you talking about? And I'm like, so I got one, and I'm super excited about that. And she passed her first night of
habanero. I don't know what that is. So, hey, Jamie, how's it going? Check her out on Not Another Reptile Podcast.
Jamie,
thanks for swinging by, Jamie. So as far as I know about the green trees, they are.
Somebody was talking about my sippy cup. It's my US
Yeah.
Arc sippy cup in baby blue. They didn't,
Baby blue.
you don't
Now,
get options when you bid on stuff.
are they difficult to keep? I mean, you've got to keep the humidity up, and you got to have like things like just so for them, don't you?
Man, not near as bad as a lot of people think. I'm really surprised to see. I have people, I've got good friends who are keeping them in the same rooms with ball pythons, and the ball pythons are getting stuck sheds still, and the green trees are coming out perfect sheds. Like most of them seem to actually tolerate a little bit lower humidity than the ball pythons.
Oh,
They don't seem to, so they're not that bad. Like they're fragile. You do have to worry about, their spines and messing their tails up and stuff. And that's, one of the reasons, even overcoming a lot of the old wives' tale when I got into them, it's why they probably would still never be a, beginner species. You can't really just snatch them off. You got to coax them off their perch or gently get them off of it so you don't mess up their tails when you do it. But the humidity is not that bad. It's around 70, around 65 to 70. They seem to shed like perfectly good from everyone I've talked to. And the people I see who are spraying them 2 or 3 times a week. It's not 2 or 3 times a day. It's not constant spikes. That's how you get them sick, actually. A lot of old wild shell stuff, you just missed everything twice a day. It's like, no. Most people just keep them on puppy pads because, they're 100% arboreal and they do not go on the ground pretty much at all. So, there's no necessary need for substrate. I still like it. I've been told that they can be sensitive to certain types of substrate, and like been told you can't do bioactives with them from people who've done them. They say that, like certain mold spores and stuff like that can make them puff up. So that's one that I was surprised. I had never heard that before when I was looking into them. And then I started getting with people and I got one and I started talking to a couple people. They're like, no bios. I was like, I just automatically assumed they'd be perfect for a bio. And it's like, no, freaking you got to worry about certain mold spores and stuff that we have here that they don't have in their natural environment or something. Like, I don't know.
yeah.
I'm probably messing some of that up.
But still, that sounds difficult to me. Sounds like a difficult thing.
Dude, I went to Bill's house. I've been to Bill's house a couple times, and you go in there and they're just in the room in their enclosures, like probably 4x2 enclosures, on their perches, and there's just 2 perches, a water bowl, puppy pad. He sprays them a couple times a week. The ambient humidity's in there, maybe 60%. Easy peasy. Like I've seen some nightmares with getting them started and stuff with like liver and other stuff like that to get them started and having problems with dealing with babies. But all the problems I saw were mostly with, people were running into all kinds of problems with wild caught stuff. If you're buying good quality animals that are well established and stuff, I haven't seen too much of that, of the problems.
So what are your plans for the green tree? Going to pick up a nice green for, or what are you going to do?
I still don't know. Like, I know she was a yellow Neo. I've got some friends who have some nicer males and stuff. I might do a split clutch and end up sending her over to somebody to breed her with a male that was a red Neo, because that works kind of like the yellow is albino recessive. You need but it's different. I don't know. It's weird. They get mad at you if you try to say it. That's what it is. That's not what it is, they say. But you can get basically like a super red, but from all my understandings, the super reds are really just a hetless yellow, which would make them like an albino recessive. I don't know. And someone knows in the comments probably already, and they're probably hating on me right now for messing this up. But it kind of works like that for our layman terms, if you don't understand and how some of the other species that shan't be named tonight work, so I know I can't breed a yellow to a yellow because they'll all be yellow, and the red Neos are actually more valuable, more sought after. So I got to get a red Neo male to breed to her.
And how old are they when they go through their, what is it, the autogenic change or whatever it's called, where they develop their adult coloration?
By the books, like 1 to 2 years is when it's happening. As early as 6 months, but like I got a buddy who's got one that's like 3-4 months old and it's already starting to change and like looks gnarly. Like this thing's black. It's going to be like probably extremely, it's from one of the melanistic lines. So I don't know if that makes it change early or not, but.
Gotcha. All right. So you got that one. And I know you've got the carpets. Did you start with the carpets or did you start with the snake that shall remain nameless?
I started with, well, honestly, the very first snake I ever bought is going to be a red-tailed boa. And even before I started Parpart's Pristine Pythons, like the first animal I bought when I got back into them after my daughter was 8 was another red-tailed boa. And that's Cheesecake. I still have her. She's creeping on 8 now. She's like 7.5. I was always a boa guy.
Are you doing any breeding with them?
Yes. Not successfully yet. I'm still working on it. It's definitely a different monster than all my pythons. Like so far, all the pythons I've tried to breed have bred. Hasn't been that many, but they've all done it for me. And boas, I just keep breeding them and they just keep not giving me babies. I didn't end up getting babies out of my rainbow boas that I was breeding. I didn't end up getting babies out of my Solomon Island ground boas. But on my Solomon Island ground boa, she passed during birth. So I was going to get babies.
Oh.
And all the babies were stillborn.
I got you.
But
yeah,
so this year, hopefully I'll get my first red tails though. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. No, I keep the Sanzinia, the Madagascar tree boas. I have the Westerns. And I like them because they really don't look like anything else. I've never really been too much into boas. I think probably the other boas that I would be into would be the arboreal ones. I like the Amazon tree boas. I think those are pretty cool. I like the Dominicans. I think that those are pretty sharp looking, nice and red coloration. But outside of that,
go ahead.
Outside of that, that's pretty much it for me for boas. I think I'll probably just stick with the Sanzinia. So as far as the boas go.
Yeah, I've got for boas, I've got the red tails. I've got a few. I've got 2 girls that are, could go for me this season. I'm pretty sure Cheesecake's going to go for me this year. Like the first year I was breeding them, I just had Cheesecake. That's my, my original girl that I've grown up.
Right.
I waited until she was, 5.5, like I wanted to make sure she was definitely old enough. That's my pet. So, and then I just tried to breed her like a ball python. I just threw a male in there a couple times. That was a couple years ago. And then last year I actually cooled them and everything, but I bred them like my carpet pythons and I put the boys in after I cooled them down, like probably about halfway through whenever I was, getting ready to start bringing them back up and stuff.
Right.
And that's when my carpets breed. But I guess, the boas breed going into cooling down and then they're gravid through the cooling down and dropping babies earlier in the year. So I think I just messed up the timing on that one, which I corrected it this year. This year I put the males in. I put my males in about 2 months before I started cooling down. So I think September, I put my males in September and I started cooling down in November. And my males have just been in there. I've taken my males out and fed them a couple times. Nobody's been fed since November, December, and January. Yeah, November was the last.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is how long are you leaving the males in there with the females?
I'm leaving them in. I'm just leaving them in there. They're doing what they want to do. You 1-to-1 breed your boas anyways, and they're not eating. They're through their chill cycle. I separated them one time and gave the females like a medium rat, which would be a very small meal for them. And I gave the boys a small meal too, just a little snack between their little sub-brumation time. But that's it. And then I just left them in there. So my girl Cheesecake has declined food the past, I pulled her out the last couple of weeks. I was looking at her. She was looking thick. And I was like, she wasn't even up at the glass on feeding day. So I tried to offer her one. And when I gave the other ones a medium and she wouldn't even take the medium. And then she wouldn't, I tried to give her one last week too. And she just didn't even move. And I'm like, she's never refused food in her life. And she's Chungaloris looking right now. And I keep my boas thin. So I'm like, hopefully she gives me a nice healthy litter. That should be my first boa litter there.
Nice. Nice. So you got the boas. Carpets. How are the carpets doing?
Carpets are good, man. I got my first good clutches last year. I got four clutches, three good clutches. One of them ended up pretty much slugging out. I mean, she gave me two decent eggs, but they went bad about 3/4 of the way through. But she was also my first carpet python, and she was a wild caught IJ. And so no telling how old she is. I know she's at least like 7 years old.
Right.
And from everyone else I've talked to, that's kind of common on your wild caught stuff is, if they do breed, they can slug out and stuff. Some people never get them to go. I got her from a guy who had her for, I believe, 3 years, and he had just bought her as a pet, as a wild caught. And he said that she was sub-adult when he got her. So that's, but you never know. Sometimes they don't eat as good in the wild as what would be a sub-adult. Could be 2 years old, or it could be 6 months old. Just depends on whether it was a good year or a bad year in the wild. So
now, as far as carpets go, you've got like 29 different subspecies or localities or whatever it's called, right?
Not near that many, but that is number two. That's the second highest amount of species that I have for sure. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got six. Yeah, I've got 6 carpet girls breeding this season. I had 4 last season. I've got 6 that are ready. 6 that are ready this season.
Right.
I've got a 7th one that could be ready, but I'd rather just let her have another year. I don't really like to breed them too young. But then I've got a couple more that'll be ready next year, and I've got definitely multiple species. I've got mostly jungles and bredli are my 2 big focuses there.
I do like the bredli, actually.
I didn't get the whole reclassification into a different species thing whenever I first started messing with them. I'm like, man, this is just a red carpet python. You're tripping. And, and then I bought some and I owned them, and I'm like, man, these are just chill carpet pythons. And then, got a little too humid, stayed a little extra damp in there. They start getting blisters and stuff. And I'm like, oh, they can't handle the humidity. They're a little different. They like that dryness. I mean, you definitely tell they've got like a much more keeled scale. They don't like that humidity. They're tolerant of pretty humid environments, but if you keep them damp, they'll get blisters and stuff. And then I produced them, and man, it was so apparent, so much night and day. It's like 2 different animals that you started. My bredlis, 100% of them ate the first meal. Well, one of them killed it and dropped it in its water bowl, but he ate it the next time. Like 25, 26 of them all took their very first meal, frozen thawed, off tongs, perfect. Pick them right up after they shed. They're just sweet as can get out. There's 1 or 2 that might be just a little testy, no more than you would get with some of your more pet-related species of other types of pythons. And so just night and day handling experience for the babies and stuff, because previously I had just handled older brettles or brettles that were, my first brettle I bought, I want to say was already 1.5 years. I hadn't had, real babies. And my experience with the carpets would have been, like a lot of the older ones that I had gotten were already kind of chill, or I didn't buy them. I don't deal with the dickhead ones. So I didn't know, but you get the babies and it's like, oh yeah, the freaking jungle crosses, my jungle diamond crosses, you reach in there and it's like, you better be sweet. You better be baby talking, you got to be patient. You got to coax them out, if you don't want to get bit. Some socialization is needed. I've been having to work with them a good bit. And that's with me breeding the sweet ones. And my babies are like hands down sweet in comparison to some of the clutch I started last season for a friend. I had a friend let me, get some babies fresh from him and start them. And he walked me through it. He's one of my mentors. And so I got to experience that, and dude, it's his were just all kinds of bitey. Mine are okay once you get them out. So I have been able to see a difference in breeding nicer, sweeter, more docile parents to docile parents does appear to produce more docile babies. So just playing with stuff like that and basically doing my jungles. Pure IJs. My pure IJ is the one that slugged out, but hopefully they'll go for me this year. I just do a little bit of those, but I do like them. I would do them more, but nobody wants to pay for them. Like they're really pretty. Like once you start getting in, it's because we can still get them. wild caught, and that's the only reason I feel like they're still so inexpensive and people don't work them as heavily because they're like, oh, it's just a wild caught, and they're inexpensive. Nobody wants to spend years working a project to make a $200 or $300 snake, like,
Right.
and which is crazy because like just some of the line bred like F3, once you get like F2, even F3 are just beautiful animals with rich colors, and like very few people are working them. So, and they're pretty much the smallest readily available ones. So, and they're fairly docile. So like I want to start working more with those.
Right.
But again, I want to start working more with an animal that's in the most inexpensive thing that they offer in all of carpet pythons.
Yeah, so the red eye aren't too dissimilar from the Angolans that I keep as far as temperature and humidity requirements. Their Angolans are kind of semi-arid, live in, I think, same exact type of area. Now they get a little bit more of a bad rap. People, you get two things. They're a bad, what python, bad looking, what python, and then they're just kind of, pissy and stuff. But I've got 6, and hands down, all 6 are the sweetest, most social snakes that I have. If there was a snake that was people focused, I mean, at least in my experience with the species that I keep, it's the Angolans. Those guys are just so curious. And I've got them in tubs right now because I'm building a snake room and everything's, I just moved and everything's crazy. And so I open those tubs and I got to go in there every day, open the tubs and get them all out and let them do their thing because they're just too active, too curious. They can't help it. And sweetest things ever. I mean, I'll never not have a Angolan at this point. So,
you might have something to do with me having one now, because you kept talking yours up so much. And then I happened to come across my buddy, Kevin Finke. Some of y'all know Finke. He's got some nice ball pythons and stuff. Well, he's got some Angolans. And so he's got some nice Angolans. And he had just hatched some out, and he's been kind of eyeballing carpets. I've been kind of eyeballing Angolans. So we worked the deal. And so I got me one, I don't remember now. It was a month or two ago. It was before Christmas. But I really liked it. Like like you were saying though, but the scalation feels very similar to the bredlis. Yeah. The bredlis don't feel like the rest of the carpet pythons. They feel kind of similar to the diamonds. The diamonds feel a little bit different than the other carpets and a little bit different than the bredls because I've got a pure diamond now too, growing up. But yeah, I was real surprised on the Angolan. Like they're definitely more. I don't know if I would quite say carpet python-esque, just because they are like a little thicker, a little bigger bodied than like say a carpet python, especially as a baby carpet python. But very boa, very very much like my baby boas and stuff. Inquisitive, crawls around. Not timid at all.
Nope.
I have had to watch it a little bit when I first go in there. I do seem to see a little bit more of a feeding response. Yeah. But in all fairness, if you keep boas, they have a very similar look to them. They're just very intelligent and they usually don't bite you because, one tongue flick and they know it's not you. And, boas, you just usually don't get bit by them. And I just don't trust this thing to go in that quick because it has that look like if you've owned baby boas, like they're perfectly fine. You can reach right up to them. They've already tongue flicked, but they're sitting there like, I might bite the fuck out of you. They've got that little bit of a look to them, and that Angolan's got that look like, I'm gonna wear your ass out. And I'm like, I don't know if you're going to or not, and I don't invite biting. Like, if I get bit, I get bit. I get bit all the time. But let me just touch it from behind.
I did get one female as a subadult that was very, very defensive to the point where she rattled her tail, hissed nonstop. And I did keep her in a tub because I wanted to just control the interaction as much as I could. And so I would open the tub every day and just stand there and stare at her, and she'd hiss at me and she'd vibrate her tail. And then one day she just stopped and said, screw it. And then just came right out of the tub, came right out on my hand, crawled up my arm. And I'm like, you're not going to bite me in the face, are you? But ever since then, She did a complete 180 in like that one moment and has been sweet ever since. I go into her tub, clean everything out. I mean, sweet as pie, all of them, sweet as pie.
I'm
So
hoping she'll be sweet once I get her moved. She's chilling in a little bit of a smaller tub while she's in quarantine still. Even though she's already passed he's already passed all of his initial testing and stuff.
yeah.
I don't move until I get a secondary test on all that stuff.
How much time
So
do you space out the two tests? You test them as soon as you get them, and then you test them how long?
at
down the
least
line?
30 days.
30
If,
days.
if it's at an expo, they're getting tested on Monday because I'm going to swab them on Sunday night. I'm going to test them on Monday morning. If I got it shipped in, it gets swabbed and tested the same day I get it. I drive past RAL on the way to the FedEx hub. And so I'll take a swab with me in an order form, and I stop right in the parking lot, swab it, run in there, drop it in their drop box, save me on the
I've
shipping.
got tests for them on the way. They're in the mail here somewhere.
Oh yeah, I love Chad and the guys over at RAL. They're super easy to work with. It's $25. There is not an animal I have ever purchased or owned where an extra $25 is not worth the peace of mind to know that all the rest of my animals are now going to be safe because of that.
Right.
And then I do it a second time just because, they could have got contaminated at the point. You got to wait. And then I do random testing too, like especially on my Morelia, all my carpet pythons and stuff. And this green tree will get tested several times just because
They're more prone.
Nobody wants to say it's more pronounced in the hobby. I've tried to get REL to put the numbers together and he won't do it. He's like, I'm not doing it. And he's like, you're not getting that out of me. But I can tell you that I've bought well over, 200, 300, 400 ball pythons. I don't even remember. And I've tested them all. And I've tested every single other snake I've gotten too. I have never once, you missed. Both of y'all missed. Y'all let me slip.
No, I saw it.
I have never had one of those pythons test hot. Ever. Not ever. I've had plenty of friends who have. Usually people who are buying adults. But on carpet pythons, oh my sweet Lord. Like, if they're over 2 years old, oh, you're way delayed. Way delayed. If they're over 2 years old, I would say 50-50.
No shit.
50-50. And I am not like, I don't work super blacks. I don't work anything known to be lethal or kinking. And like, I am freaking Dr. Doolittle. I don't even like to step on a bug, bro. Like I literally like have feels about it if I accidentally see that I stepped on a large bug and I killed it. And like, I do not enjoy euthanizing snakes at all. So I'm like terrified of buying adult Morelia.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm gravitating towards is having a lower number of snakes that don't necessarily have morphs, so that I don't have to bring new snakes into my collection very often, and I can breed these other snakes and keep them for a long time. Because I'm terrified over it. I've not had any issues yet, but somebody farts wrong in my snake room and I'm worried about it. You can ask my wife. I lose sleep, everything.
So, I don't worry too much because of my quarantine procedures, but at the same time, I say I don't worry too much. I went on found out about some cryptosporidium, went on a investigatory spiral with my ADHD self. And within 2 weeks, it sold every single colubrid I own. Because I just had like a few little this and a few little that. Most of them were pets. I had like 5 corn snakes, like 3 hog nose, just like random. I sold them all. I was like, We just went through, tested all my pythons for cryptosporidium just in case, even though they're not, typical carriers. And just like, I moved all of them out. I was like, not worth it. Not worth it. They're just pets to me. It's a completely separate thing. I got to get a wine cooler and stuff if I want to mess with them. I'm like, just going to stick with my pythons and boas. If it doesn't go in a fridge. And then I ended up getting rid of my rosy boas. I was kind of sad about that. I kind of wanted to keep the rosies, but once I looked at everything, yes, it's a boa. But if you look at everything else you do for it, it's a colubrid. you got to freaking brumate it in the refrigerator. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing all this just for one little one-off species, just to, I wanted to make 3 to 5 rosy boa litters a year.
No,
Plus I
hear you.
realized
Yeah,
that they're just evil.
I have the Sanzinia, and I go through the same thing with the IBD scares. I hear somebody talking about IBD, and I was like, oh crap, I have Sanzinia. And I like reach out to everybody in the Sanzinia community. Hey, how prevalent is this? Have you seen it? And everybody's like, nope, never seen it. Like, all right, I'll just
No, you're gonna. I mean, it's not like you're not going to see it anywhere else, but your IBD is more often than not going to come from your big bulk boa houses. The old heads with boas from years ago and stuff. And that's why I'm like super leery on like boa specific breeders, because like if you have a breeder who's got a whole lot of IBD in his collection with boas, and he does some of the python species, it'll tear through them a lot more rapidly and a lot more devastating than it will on the boas typically. And so that's why, like, I don't really usually, and if I'm buying ball pythons from ball python breeders, or if even if they have a boa or two, I don't test for IBD. I probably should, shame on me. It's not that much more expensive, but I test everything that's not a ball python for it. And I test everything that's not a python for it.
right.
And if I get it from like anything I get from an import or anything like that, I just run a panel and I'm testing them for all of that stuff. Even if it's stuff they can't get, maybe they got it and they're holding on to it and transmitting it from, some of the, I'm so sketch on my wild caught stuff. Like I've got wild caught stuff that's passed clear tests 6-7 times. You can ask my wife, I will not touch it. I will not allow anyone to touch that animal until it is the last thing of the day and we are leaving. And it's like, that animal's clean. I know it's clean. I'm just like, but it's wild caught. It was wild caught 3 years ago when I got it.
No, I just stay away from it. I'm not interested. It's not worth the risk to me. I'll wait for somebody else to get some offspring or something. So
Like, I squirreled off like my boas. I only buy boas from people who have ball pythons. I still test them for IBD. She got me. But you could find people who breed multiple species who have the boas, and and I don't know. Maybe it's there's probably not much science behind my superstition there on that one, but I would rather get it from somebody who has those, because I feel like they would be more inclined to know.
Yeah.
Even if they weren't big on their testing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm just
now, as far as other species are concerned, what's selling at the shows? How are the other species doing relative to the species that we shall not name tonight?
I don't like to flip a lot. It's usually not my thing. If I resold something, it's usually for, like Jesse's in the audience, and he vends shows with me, or somebody who's bought 95% of their snakes from me. I might consign like a clutch or something. I don't like doing it, because I test everything. I put my name, I warranty, I guarantee every single animal on my table, and I'm not selling something from somebody else unless it's been through the same thing.
Sure.
So I don't like to resell a lot because of my biosecurity and stuff. It ends up it costs a lot if you want to do it like that, to buy animals, quarantine, test them all, just to resell them. So I try to steer clear of it. So this year I haven't had too much besides the main snakes that I sell and carpet pythons. The carpet pythons, it's never going to be, I feel like, your hognose or your corn snake or your crested gecko where you're going to sell 30 of them a show. And if you are selling 30 of them a show, then you're lying to people and you're telling them that they're the perfect first snake and that they shouldn't buy a corn snake. And your colors are probably green, and you just like to lie to people about what a first snake is, and you enjoy getting people bit all the time. But we're not going to spiral down that tunnel and talk about that. No, we're not. So the carpet pythons, they do good. I very rarely go a show where I don't sell some,
Right.
but I don't sell cheap ones either. There's not really cheap carpet pythons, not in the sense of other main bred animals, like $30, $100. No, I've never even seen a wild caught one for $100. even the wild caught one's going to run you 250. So, that automatically makes it a little rougher. You can't,
Right.
you can't just go you can't go balls deep on carpet pythons and breed a whole bunch of them and think, oh, you know what? These sell good. Look, they're all $300+ The average on these could be like $600-700. Yeah, you see how I snuck that in. $600-700. And so I'm going to make 30 clutches of them and I'm going to be rich. No, you're going to make 30 clutches of them and you're going to be sitting on them damn things forever until you get out of the hobby, because they're not a get rich quick scheme. They don't sell 30 a show. Like this past weekend, I sold 2. That was a good show. I think the most I've sold so far was 3 at a show. Okay. But I also, there's probably some breeders out there who are selling more than that at the shows who have, tables full of carpet pythons, but there's only a couple breeders in the US who go to a show with more than a table full of carpet pythons. Right. But it's nice, extra added padded income. The return on the investment is nice from a business standpoint. I like working with the species because they're enjoyable for me. And it helps to create consistency in my shows to have diversity upon my table. Yeah. Sometimes this animal's not selling, but this animal is. Like last year, I did a little bit more reselling, but it was research. I bought 6 litters or clutches of animals, and they were all animals that I was growing up over here and raising and had been raising and was getting ready to breed this season. And so I went out and I spoke with people who were training me or mentoring me, and I was able to get everybody. I was able to find somebody reputable to either let me start fresh, wet, or after a first meal and get some good real life experience. So I knew what I was getting into for the season coming up, and I had a little bit more experience. If it's something I really wanted to do, and pair 3 or 4 litters or clutches of these, let me see if one sells. So last year I had, up into middle of last year before I started running out of stuff, the rainbow boas seemed to do fairly decent. That was one that, I might go a show or 2 without selling any, but there was a couple shows where I sold 5 or 6 and, and those are pretty good, but that's another one where I scare people off because I will just basically the first thing I'm going to tell you is you're going to kill it if you don't do it right. And that usually scares people off because I don't say it in any kind of sugar-coated way. I literally say, if you don't know how to take care of this animal, you're going to kill it. Have you heard of a rainbow boa before? And do you have any clue how to care for it? You don't? Come over here. Let's look at something else. And even doing that, I still sold 5 of them at one show, 6 of them at another show. Okay. With having a couple different kinds. I had some Lucy's, I had some Colombians, and at one point I had a couple of Brazilians. And so those were actually decent. The only reason I ended up getting out of those is because I know for a fact I had too many animals end up dying in their homes because people were saying they knew how to care for them and stuff. And I just didn't feel comfortable with it. Just knowing that person lost their animal. Oh, that person lost their animal. It's like I sold 18 and to know that 4 or 5 of them for sure lost their animal. That's too much. I don't feel like it's easy enough for me to be selling them in the pet industry, and I don't feel warm and fuzzy about it. So at the end of the day, I want to feel warm and fuzzy about, other people can sell them and it's fine. You're going to lose some animals. I lost one while I was raising them up on just one of the babies. I took it to a show 2 weeks in a row and that was too much for it. It stressed it. It died. Even with good humidity and husbandry and stuff, they're a little fragile for me.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that. No, my whole thing is to, like I said, work with a smaller number of snakes, maybe higher end. So the people buying them have to do a little bit of thinking, a little bit of research before they make the purchase. And part of it is I don't want to have 300 snakes either. Oh,
I know. I'm sitting at 4 right now with babies. It's rough.
Because you gotta feed them too, right? And so I've got, I raise the ASFs and that takes a lot of time. And it does not appeal to me to be in a situation where you've got rack after rack and your hobby is cleaning racks and feeding rats and just doing all the logistical stuff. I want to play with my pythons.
Oh, I know. It's very easy for the rodents to turn into a side job, or the main job because it can be more work than the snakes.
Yeah.
And like I stepped away from it a while ago, and I haven't looked back, and I'm happier for it because I kind of upped the level of snakes that I was selling for more money. And if you're not, producing bottom of the barrel snakes, there is meat on the bone. And when there's meat on the bone, we spend money on what we find important and what we find benefit from. And I found important and benefit from not messing with rats anymore. I pay approximately $1,500 a month in a feeder bill, and that's at a national feeder supply rate with a discount. So like,
yeah, that's what your time's worth is what you're telling me right now.
Yeah. My time is worth about $1,500 a month because that was a lot of work. And for me, I developed allergies too. So I either pay someone or I have to monkey suit up and goggles, paint mask, respirator. And even still, like if they touch me, like I'll break out in hives. If their nails touch me, they're so sharp, they'll like micro pierce your skin and I'll bust out in hives real bad. Like super, super allergic. And so, you stick all that together. I'm like, you know what? I'm just paying for it.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense there. I mean, I have ASFs and mice. I hate the mice for obvious reasons. ASFs don't smell. The mice, no matter what, the day after you, 24 hours later, you can still smell them. And it's like a thing for me. I don't like rodents to begin with.
My mice never stank. My ASF smelled like some sweet, sticky weed. Like I don't know why. Anyone who breeds ASFs, if they've smelled some sweet, sticky weed, they'll tell you it kind of smells like some sweet, sticky weed a little bit. Don't stick your face in there and take a big old whiff because it doesn't smell like it that much. But
mine just smell like pine shavings. But the mice, you clean them out, and the next day you can smell it again. And it's like, damn, I hate these mice.
What are you running on your car, man? My mice never stank. Like my rats smelled, man. Like I noticed. I did my mice in the house. You couldn't even tell that I had animals in the house. And when I put the first 6-tub rat rack, homemade cement tub rat rack in there. Oh yeah, you knew as soon as you walked in the door of my house, even though it was behind 2 doors on the opposite end of the house from the front door. And I'm like, yeah, no, garage, you're out of here.
Yeah. No, I've got one snake that will only eat live mice, and that's the original reason why I bought them. But now it turns out they're pretty handy for feeding hatchlings of certain species of pythons. So, yeah, I keep them around.
When I was doing my own.
What's that?
I did them when I was doing my own. The snakes grow really well on them and stuff. I didn't do the babies on them though. Actually, I did ASFs for all the holdbacks. And I did rats and mice for everything else because they were going to be for sale. So I started my animals on mice, switch them over to rats. They stay on rats till I sell them. Right. And then I still had colubrids back then. And so I did the mice for all my colubrids.
I gotcha. Yeah, I go back and forth between the live and the frozen thawed, just the 2 things. So I don't have to have as many colonies of the live. And frozen thawed for me is kind of like a break. So I try to do it every other week. Lately, I've been feeding mostly live because my production is, my production is outstripping my demand. So
it's so much more convenient.
Yeah, it is. But I want if I'm going to sell to pet owners too, they've got to be able to eat both. So
that's why. So I do my for sale snakes predominantly on frozen thawed. Because even with my discount through my bulk supplier, I can still get frozen thawed cheaper than live. You always can. And so, it's a cost thing anyways. Like if I feed them live, it literally costs me almost an extra $100 for the week to feed. Like I've got 190 babies right now, 187. And so, it costs me a good chunk more to feed them live. And so like, I definitely have to pay for that convenience if I want to feed them live. And the pet customers want them to eat frozen anyway. So it's a no-brainer. They do. Yeah. Now that I don't do my own, it's 3 mouse hoppers, 2 rat fuzzies, and then it's straight to frozen thawed.
Okay. All right, well, you must get a good discount because it's a heck of a lot cheaper for me to feed live than it is to buy the frozen thawed. So, I mean, I get all.
It's cheaper for you to feed live because you're producing them. If you were buying them.
Oh yeah, if you're buying them.
Yeah, if you're buying them, oh yeah, it's always going to be cheaper to buy them. Even my rodent supplier that I get most of my live rodents from, his frozen prices are cheaper. I just have another guy whose frozen prices are even cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, we got Michael Blanca says, great show. I breed mice and ASFs. The rats just have a stronger odor.
Dude, that's
You talking
me,
about
man.
the
Like,
rats
I like
or
my mice.
ASFs?
I ran, tubs that were like, probably about like that big. They're probably like 14-inch by like 8-inch tubs that I kept them in. And I just ran 1.2 or 1.3 on my mice. I don't overrun them. And, but I also put like 2 inches of bedding in there, pellets, put a good solid layer of pellets on the bottom and then pine on the top. And I never had a problem. I'd supplement a handful. So everything I put in my stuff was layer of pine pellets, about 2 inches of flake. They got some diatomaceous earth sprinkled across the top of it, a handful of Timothy hay, and then my 6-seed supplement mix. They got a half a cup per tubs of that sprinkled on, which was floating catfish food, high protein cat food, sunflower seeds, mealworms. What else was in there? There's 6 ingredients, but it's a nice little supplement, that I mix in there and stuff. And the supplement seed stuff, I just mix it all in their bedding and stuff. And so mixing the food and the bedding helped to keep them like they would always pee in one spot because there's food in their bedding. So they would pick all the food out of one spot and then they'd pee there and then dig for the food throughout the rest.
Okay. Well,
it was oats. It was oats, rolled oats. Jesse said it.
Yeah, oats. Yeah, for me, the ASFs and the mice get. I've got a high quality, high protein dog food. I've got not chicken starter, but I use the high protein. What do they want to call it? Egg layer feed. So it's a super high protein chicken feed. They get organic flax. Mix that with black oil sunflower seeds and sweet potatoes. And I think that's pretty much it. I feel like there's one other thing I give them, but I can't remember what it is. I think that's it.
Oh my God. Can we talk about the growth rates of snakes on freaking national supplier food versus you bred them yourself and you supplement them? Sweet baby Jesus. Shameless husbandry pro plug here. I've been with them for 5 years now. And so I've got growth charts that freaking prove it, on animals that I've had. It's like, you can see the years that I've, did my own rodents and they're like, and then the years where I started buying rodents from a main supplier. And it's like,
well, that's exactly why I decided. Well, it's one of the reasons I decided to breed my own. I wanted to control all the inputs for the snakes because, my thinking, we're holistic here. At home, we try to eat right and try to eat organic and, avoid all the crap. And, my wife's like, if you're feeding your snakes GMO stuff or you're feeding your rats GMO stuff, that's what the snakes get. I mean, is that going to mess their clutches up? Is it going to make them less healthy? And I was like, well, I mean, it makes sense that it would. So,
my average
organic.
My season average egg count is down about 2 eggs per clutch since feeding national suppliers. Like my girls that were giving me 16 dropped to giving me like 11 and 12. And you're talking about girls that, because I did it for 4 years before, of my own. And so, you got girls who gave me, one girl did 12 her first clutch and then she did 16, 15, 16. And then I come over here and I feed her different and she goes down to 11. It's like, and the only thing that switched was the food that I'm feeding them.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, for me, the pythons that shall remain nameless, I got, first timer, I got 6 eggs, all good. Then I got a 9-egg clutch. Unfortunately, I think that male was shooting blanks. I got no veins in any of them, which was upsetting. I think we went back and forth on that in one of the chats. And then I just got another first time female, got 5 good eggs, and they're all looking good so far. So I mean, nothing to write home about, but no slugs, other than the no veins in the one clutch. I mean, everything's been, pretty good, small sample size, but I don't really have anything to compare it against.
Well, and you can't always blame people want to blame slugs on, like, regardless of species. You can't just blame slugs on males. You can't. It's been proven.
Right.
You can see a slug on the sonogram before ovulation, and me and Jesse, we like notated and stuff. Like, I saw this girl, and I'm like, because someone, a good, well reputable breeder, told me that, and I was like, how come nobody knows this? It's like, no, I've never heard that before. That there's slugs before ovulation, because
I didn't know that.
Before ovulation, because ovulation is where sperm is mixed, and
Right.
so if slugs happen before ovulation, then it's females, not males.
Yeah. So what does that look like on the ultrasound?
They're dark.
Okay.
The slugs are dark. Like the eggs are more like a shadowy stuff looking. Like you're like, oh, it's an egg. You see like a shadow, but when you get that slug, it's just darkness. And it's just a super dark egg. And I've been told that now. And then I've heard another breeder say it, who's, a 12, 15 year plus breeder. And so like me and Jesse were sonogramming last season, and I was like, Jesse, let's write this down. And so we made notes on it and stuff. And I'm like, I see slugs in here. I was like, I count them. I was like, this is an entire slug clutch. And sure enough, she dropped them. I saw slugs. And then there was another one where I'm like, man, I was like, she's got a couple slugs in there, I think. And I put a note on her file. And when she laid, I went back, and sure enough, she had 3 slugs. I saw a couple, but I couldn't, it's hard to count every egg every time. But I was like, I could tell. And I saw them pre-ovulation. And I'm like, man, I'll be damned.
That's really interesting. I mean, that makes sense. Totally makes sense. I mean, you got bad ovum from the beginning. So you got any thoughts at all on what would cause that? Because there's a cause for everything.
I don't know, man. It's got to be, it's obviously something with the female. I think it might have something to do with females holding on to follicles for so long. Like the Wildcott girl who, the carpet who went for me, she slugged out and stuff. It's like, because I know I've had females who I've sit there and waited on eggs for years. And some of those females, I need to do more scans. I would need to be so much better at my scanning. I'm horrible. I scan like quarterly. But I feel like the females that end up going later and are giving me clutches are females that actually absorb their follicles. And I know that I've had females that I've scanned, and every single time I scan them, they have follicles. That female that just holds 8. If any of y'all been doing this for a minute, there's that female just like 8 millimeters. 6 months later, 8 millimeters. 6 months later, 8 millimeters.
For a really long time.
Yeah, every time. And then I end up getting a clutch from them 3 years after the first time I scanned them for follicles, and it's mostly slugs. So I don't know. That's purely like, one of my speculations. I mean, I'm not anybody. I've been doing this like 6-ish years. But that's something I'm starting to notice as a trend that, like I wish I could, I'm going to have to remember to talk to somebody who's been doing this more than me. In my ADHD mind, I'll have to remember to bring it up, but I feel like that has something to do with it.
Those haploid cells just kind of age out before they ever get a chance to be fertilized.
Yeah, I only can recall 1 or 2 slugs ever really from females who laid the season before. And then it's like, maybe that's one slug is a follicle that didn't go all the way, and she held it from last season. I don't know. I don't ever scan them right after they drop. It's a good question. Deep thoughts with Travis and Zach.
We might have just uncovered something here. Who knows? Who knows? So as far as I know the market always comes up outside of the typical species. Where do you exactly? Besides that, where do you see? What do you think is picking up? What's got a growth trend to it as far as other species that are out there? What are you seeing? Anything that's?
I mean, hognose have been having their heyday, and it's crashing down all around them. I don't think we're hearing about it as much because a lot of the hognose heyday stuff was from markets that crashed in other species, and they evacuated, and they all rushed to what seemed to be the next best thing. And if you know anything about hognose, they freaking produce, man. You can have half as many of them and end up with 2-3 times as many babies. And so
Right.
it did not take long or very many years before, like, because I remember when I started this, they ran out of hognose every year at the expos. You could not get a hognose for like 3 to 5 months. 3 to 5 months of the year, you're like, they're breeding right now, or they're in brumation right now. You still got to wait on them to wake up. Like, they'd be selling out before they were going back into brumation.
Jeez,
And
wait
now,
for
oh
hognose.
no, the last 2 years in a row, there's been leftover hognose from the year before. And so, and I know for a fact, $3,000 hognose last year, freaking 800, really sliding under the table for 500 this year. But nobody's crying about it like they did with some of the other stuff, because I feel like a lot of people got into it as a secondary. And so
Right.
they had already seen it happen in other markets. When they came in there and it happened, they're like, it's happening everywhere. Like, I know I've got some friends who were like that, like wouldn't take a dime off their other snakes, didn't want to, bitched and moaned. I got to recover my money. I got to recuperate I paid so much for that. There's no way I'm going to sell this for that. I won't do it. I refuse. And then they go get in hognose, and I bought a $3,000 hognose. I'll sell it. Give me $600. Yeah, take it. I don't care. It's like they don't care. It's because they got into it knowing it was going to happen. I don't know. I know that it's been flooding out a little bit. There's still some people trying to push it, but I've already seen a little bit of an evacuation, from some people who see the writing on the wall. There's a lot of people trying to make house snakes be the next big thing. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Bushnell has a lot to do with it since he moved over here. And, you're talking about like probably the number one producer of house snakes in the world.
Right.
With, like, I think supposed thousands moved over here and has these thousands of snakes, and he's a big head. And so, like, some of the other big heads have got into it. And I think I feel like they're trying to make it be the big thing, but they don't look that cool. The morphs they have aren't that great. And
they don't
they're kind of hard to start too.
Yeah, they don't impress me that much. I mean, they're cool little snakes, but it's not anything that, like, got a hold of me.
The size on them's good. The size on them could be main level ready, because, very comparable to like your hog noses and stuff. Anything when you got a little snake and it's easy to care for, you have potential to be the next big thing, because the next big thing is always going to be something pet level. It's always going to be something that can be adopted by the pet industry, because if the pet industry doesn't prop it up, nobody else will. So it's got to be something, like hog noses are pretty freaking easy to care for. They're, once you get them established. And the house snakes are too. So I may be eating crow by not getting into house snakes, but I feel like it's going to be a competitive market. I don't want to mess with it. I saw too many people. Like, every adult house snake has disappeared from morph market in the last 12 months. And they used to be like, that was most of your listings. It would be a half a page of adult house snakes you could buy, and that was it. Nobody was even breeding them. And now you can't buy an adult. They've doubled, almost tripled in price in the last year. And so I feel like if you have some, breed the shit out of them right now. The market's gone back up on them. It's going to be good next year, but the year they grow and they progress so fast, you're breeding those things at like what, a year and a half, 2 years, easy. They're going to be flooded, and you can breed them to, I believe that's a species you can breed to death. Like, they'll just go and go and go. Somebody can correct me on that. I know that they can be extremely prolific, and it has the abundant propensity to come extremely flooded extremely fast if it does pick up. So I do, that might not be a bad one if you've got some adults sitting around, breed them if you get a bead on some adults, but I really feel like it's the breeders who are supporting that market, and they're artificially inflating it based off some artificial hopeful hype. And I don't think the pet market's lifting it up like it should.
Okay. Yeah. For me, when I look at the species and I see that it's really, really easy to breed, and say they got big clutches, I mean, that right there reduces scarcity, just at least on a theoretical level. And so I always pay attention to that. I like to get into the species that maybe take a little bit more work to breed, but aren't necessarily the most difficult thing to keep. Like the Sanzinia, they're not as easy to breed as, a lot of the other species. And then you have the rarity of some of the other species. So speaking of that, what are your thoughts on
Go ahead.
What are your thoughts on like the higher end pet market? Like we've talked a lot about the Pragashy and other more expensive
The
snakes,
higher end pet market is there, but it's finicky and it's fickle.
right?
And the problem is it's hard to live there because you have to be constantly cycling what you're doing to live there. Or a hobbyist. Because if you live there, and you're trying to make 8 pairings for whatever this is that, the pet market's propping up at a $1,500 to $2,500 price, which is not very many animals. But they are out there, like Urban Camo, hit me. Urban Camo. 3K. People still buying. My buddy made 14 this year. He's down to 3. And they're buying them. It's a pet animal. You don't even buy the end product to make the end product. So it's not, there's no breeders buying it. You buy something else that can make that because of the way the combo works or some shit.
Right.
I don't mess with them. They get dead animal snakes. I don't deal dead animal shit. But that, and that's the thing is you got to find something in the pet market that's absolutely hard to produce, that they're willing to pay for. The reason that is 3, and has been 3 for like the last 3 years is because half of them you're feeding to the tegu and it's like a 5 gene combo. So it's hard as hell to hit. You can't just make 40 of them. And the problem is anytime someone finds an animal that people are wanting to freaking pay $1,500 to $2,500, people are like, how do I make 50 of them? And they want to rush out to make 50 of them. And if it's easy, it's going to crash. It's going to plummet. The only way to keep that value is to be something like your Bo Ellens where yes, people would just die to produce them and people are just loving to produce hundreds of them, but they can't. They're trying to. They can't do it. And whenever they figure it out, the price will come down. But until then, the price can stay super astronomical high because only 1 or 2 people have figured it out. And that creates, basic economics. Supply and demand. It's a beautiful animal. It has to be a beautiful animal for the pet market to prop it up, for it to be super expensive, but it has to be rare. Pet market, the pet person thinks that a white snake is the most beautiful snake that they can find. And the problem is white snakes of almost any species are easy to produce and their value plummets like crazy. The genetic I was talking about, super fires, they were 3 or not super fire. Whatever they call them in hog noses. I'm talking about hog nose. It's ivory hog nose. I don't think it's called ivory. What are they called? The white ones.
Was it Super Honda or something or whatever?
The Leucistics. $3,000 last year. I saw one sell for $500 a couple weekends ago. And because it's a white snake, they know everybody wants them. And that white snake is easy to produce. So immediately everybody's like, people want that. Everyone and their mom rushes to ruin the project for everybody else. And everybody just races to produce it. And, you can have a business mindset, but you got to have hobby in it first, man. If you're just doing business.
Yeah, you got to love it. I mean, if you don't love it.
And you're always chasing the pipe dream, there's nothing else. You're going to be chasing the pipe dream. You got to, find a happy median, and that's where, like you said, like my white lips. I love my white lips. They're harder to breed. Not very many people have been able to do it. It's not quite as hard as the Bo Ellens. There's been more, who have done it, but not a whole lot more. I could only find 5 people in the United States to talk to about it. Yeah. It's a beautiful animal. They take a long time to mature. Even though they're still brought in as wild caught, when you bring in a wild caught adult, it can take 3 to 5 years for them to settle in and actually start breeding. So, you can't just import a bunch of adults and start throwing them out. And because of that, the price of a white lip is the same price now that it was 10 years ago. And so that's why I'm trying to produce those. They're beautiful. Pet people want them. I want to figure it out. I enjoy the challenge of trying to figure it out. Yeah. And I've got my other snakes that are going to be competitive. I've got, and I've got my boas that are coming up. All my boas I'm producing are beautiful boas. Red, white, black, and pink boas is what I'm producing. Literally, that's it. Red, white, black, and pink boas. And the pet market loves them. Boas are seeing an uptick. We talked about, what's doing good in the shows right now. Boas are seeing a real uptick in a lot of markets. Anyone from Florida here is going to shoot me and say no, because if you go to a show in Florida, there's boas everywhere. But if you go to like Central America, Central North America, Central United States, and Texas, and all Colorado, all that, you might have one boa breeder that shows up, and and a couple people who dabble. There doesn't seem to be quite as many large breeders of boas, and the ones that we do have are all like very, very centrally, specifically located. Like most of them are in California or Florida. And the rest of the United States is very lax on them. So like the demand for boas has been very high at shows lately. I feel like I've been asked extremely, and not like a crazy amount. It's just they're not out there. Like I was at Reptilian Nation, which is a big show, 100 plus vendors, like 117 vendors. And there was 2 dedicated boa breeders in the entire room. One of them had 1 table, one of them had 2 tables. And, there was no Da Vinci boa there with 4 tables full of boas. And, there was a couple people who had like some boas and some other stuff, so a lot of it's market when you're talking shows. It depends on where you're at. What's selling in, Kansas, Missouri, Texas, this area of the United States is, I know for a fact, not the same as like, Pennsylvania area and stuff.
That makes sense.
I feel so bad for anybody trying to breed animals and make any kind of money in Florida at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Florida definitely makes it a little bit more difficult. So
have you been to an expo in Florida yet, bro?
I have not. I have not been to Florida.
You could possibly think of that is on a table is just basically pennies on the dollar compared to anywhere else in the United States.
Yeah.
Oh, it's insane.
Well, probably because it's so abundant in Florida.
Oh yeah, you can throw a rock. You can throw a rock and hit a breeder with 500 snakes in Florida. In Texas, it's like we've got them, but like you go in DFW, there's maybe 20 people in all of DFW or 500 snake breeders. You go in Florida, you go to Fort Lauderdale area, you're going to find 20 in like one small town.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was speaking of the high end market, because I'm looking at, my hobby has to be at a minimum self-sufficient. I'm not looking to get rich or make a ton of money or anything, but I've got a business mindset. And so I want to make, earn the most value per dollar spent and time put into it as I can, while having a lot of good, a lot of fun with it. And so I look at the higher end snakes, and I don't like to, like I said, I don't like to turn over the collection, and I'll constantly be restocking with genetics, like, for some species. I was talking with Garrett Hartle today from Reach Out Reptiles on the Carampus, and that super dwarf locality is between $500 and $7,500. He did 3 clutches this year, and he's got a waiting list of people. Now, not all those people are going to buy them, right? I mean, some people put their names on the list to just have it on there and don't follow through. But I mean, that in and of itself,
that's because you're going to grow this thing up. It's going to take that female 5 to 6 years, 7 years to be ready to go. By the time that you produce those, Garrett's going to have produced several clutches of these things at 30 to 50 eggs per. So like, if you're not poised on something like a retic to be selling something right now that's in the thousands next year already, you already got it growing up, it's too late to buy it. If it's under $5,000, it's too late to buy it when it's a retic, because there's enough people in the retic market that everyone I've seen who's gotten in it and grown stuff up has been, whenever, by the time you grow it up, a $3,500 snake is $350 because of how long they take to grow up and how extremely prolific they are. They're easy to breed as some other species that shan't be named. And, they just take up more room, and they should have a larger enclosure, but you can stuff that thing in a freaking drawer and it'll still breed and just have a mashed up looking face. And like, oh, people see dollar signs, 40 babies, $35. And then they start growing it up 5 years later, $350 by the time I go to sell it. And it's just, I got a spot for reticulated pythons in my heart, man. And I like them. I like them a lot, but I feel like they are overproduced. I see too many and too small of enclosures. And if you've got a 16-foot retic at your house and an 8-foot enclosure, I'm absolutely talking to you. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I like for me, I've always loved the reticulated pythons, and I don't know why I didn't start there, but for whatever reason, I didn't. And so, I want to add them to my collection, but I've got a small Asian wife, and so they're genetically predispositioned to being scared of retics. I don't know if you knew that, but so
I'm too meal sized.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you better get a super dwarf.
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking at the locality specific super dwarfs. I think that I love the retics, and I think the super dwarfs are where it's at. And if I get into the localities, then I can breed the locality. It's kind of the same thing with the dwarf Burmese pythons. Nobody works with them. If I can,
for most people to own them, I'm with Snakes and Tanks right there. I mean, like zoos and stuff, and I don't think that. I am not one for regulation. I feel like I should be able to own a fucking Bradley tank and drive it down the road and have the ammunition to fire that son of a bitch if I feel right, because I'm a God-given American. So I don't feel like people's rights to own it should be taken away. But at the same time, I'm torn because I don't feel like, not even half, 80% of the fucking people who own reticulated pythons, I'm talking to you, if you're out there, I don't feel like you should own it. You don't have the room for it. What are you going to do with it? If you're doing it just to make money. I get it. You got some of the bigger breeders producing the cutting edge stuff. They got them in a little bit, some smaller enclosures and stuff. But if you're buying a reticulated python for a pet and you do not plan on dedicating some sort of freaking half of a bedroom to it, yeah, you have no business buying a mainland reticulated python. Yeah. Like I've wanted to mess with them in the past, but even still, it's like, only super dwarf. And the problem I've had, and the reason I haven't been able to bite the bullet on that, is because it's so inconsistent. You can I've seen 80+% super dwarfs, 13, 14, 15 feet. Just because the way their super dwarf percentages pass, the percentage passes by the scales, but the way it actually passes, you can have an 8-foot animal in the same clutch as a 16-foot animal. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which animal was small, which animal was big. Any amount of mainland in there can affect that. And the feeding schedule on it can greatly affect that. And then I'm skeptical on it also because I know that half the people breeding super dwarf stuff are starving their stuff to try to keep it small. So there's, a fine line between Jay's Prehistoric Pets, where he's trying to feed this thing a goat so he can make some YouTube likes and get it as fat as he possibly can so he gets a clutch of 1,000. And the guy with the super dwarf that's the size of my carpet python because he feeds it once every 6 weeks and it's only 6 months old. And he's like, I got to keep it small. That's why I'm so weird on him, and that's why I'm such a huge fan, of the dwarf Burmese. Like everything I've seen about him is just consistent, man. I have every single dwarf Burmese that anyone has claimed to be a pure dwarf Burmese has been the same size.
Yep.
They are all right in the same size. And I've only seen a handful of the 50s, but all the 50s seem to come out around the same size too.
Well, I'll let you know. I've got two 50s, 50% dwarfs and 2 pures. So we'll see what happens. And then, my guy that is breeding the Pragashy, the pures, he'll sell me the whole clutch. So.
Oh no, that was for Snakes and Tanks. That was not for you. He's not selling you the whole clutch.
Oh yeah, he's going to sell me the whole clutch.
He's selling the whole clutch -1. That's okay. We're tripping. Oh. No, make love, not war, because if you're buying all of them, you're getting a deal. So you don't need all those males. I'll let you buy them all, and then you let me get my male on the deal. And
we could work a deal. We could work a deal. But I gotta,
I
gotta breed those and get them into the market. I mean, they're a really cool snake. They're a trip. Their behavior is so different than what I expected, and it's not anything like the mainlands at all, or the full size Burms. They are so active and inquisitive. I mean, I know I talked up the Angolans, but these guys act like they're on crack, and they're not. not a defensive or an aggressive snake. They're just very, a lot of people are kind of unnerved by them because they're very jittery and very, darty, I guess is a good word. But not aggressive. I mean, they move fast. They're fast. They're extremely fast snakes.
Travis, you were a Marine, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't say shit. I was just sitting there reading comments. Jesse caught me on the Bradley tank. You just let me go.
Yeah, it's a fighting vehicle. Yeah. Well,
Jesse's over here. Point of order, sir.
What's that?
Said Jesse's over here like point of order, sir.
Yeah, that's right. It's a fighting vehicle. Carries troops in it. It's got what it's got in there.
But yeah, that's why I want to kind of start messing. That's the reason I wanted to start messing with the retics was to try to breed them smaller and smaller and smaller. But I haven't seen anybody do it consistently enough, or the results to be consistent enough for me to want to mess with it. And and even if I feel like it could be done, but I don't feel like it's anybody's. I mean, I can't say it's nobody. Somebody's working on it. But the big guys, it's not their focus. Their focus is not to make these things smaller. Their focus is to get morphs into it and then try to get it smaller. And because they're trying to get the morphs into it first, they're taking it to the big, and then you got to sit there and get it back small. And you got to do, man, it's going to take generations of selective breeding to consistently get the ones with mainland blood in them back down to a consistent small size. And,
Snakes and Tanks. Is there another chat? I don't know. Not that I know of. Is there?
I don't know. What chat?
I like localities. I like sticking with the pure localities. I think that's where it's at. You don't have to worry about percentages of this or that or the other thing, or chase the genes to make it look different than what it is. I mean, it's purity.
See, but don't even mention purity, Travis. Like, neither one of us can talk purity. Like, I don't know. I'm so weird on this. Like, I make pure animals that are beyond reproach pure, but I only do it to offset the mutts that I'm making. Make no mistake about it. I care that there's pure animals for people to have out there in the future, and that's the only reason I make them, is because I can't rely on the fact that other people are doing it, specifically in my carpet pythons. Like there's people, like there's only a handful of people who care about, like it's a smaller amount on that kind of stuff. So I make pure stuff to offset the mutts, but it's like I care about the morphs too. I'm mutting it up, and that's why so that's what I looked at for potential. Like, you're mutting up your retics, you're not getting consistent results. The mutton up on the Burmese seems to be much more consistent. So like, I'm not above mutting up some Burmese and throwing out some teacup Burms if we can get them.
As you know, I mean, we both love the hybrids if you want to go, extremes, but at the same time, I like the pures as well. And so I look at it as just different types of projects.
Oh yeah. Like my boas, I've got some crosses and stuff, like, trying to, because for example, all of your good albinos, your Call and your Sharp are all Colombian. They're the bigger ones. Well, people want the smaller boas, like Snakes and Takes was talking about, the smaller species, the smaller locales and stuff of the boas. All they have is T positive albino. And like, I'm a T positive guy. I'm an team ultra male. I love orange. T positive boas are not freaking orange. They're brown. It's not my thing. And a lot of other people are the same way. They want that pink. They want that yellow. They want that regular albino. And so you have to get it out of the big blood. And if you want them small, you got to start crossing them into the centrals and then trying to get your central percentage up and stuff. So, and I'm about some of that stuff too. But at the same time, nothing prettier than a nice pastel colored up, freckled out, nice pure Hog Island. Doesn't need any extra morph added to it. Just looks beautiful how it is. So I like that stuff too. I don't have any pure boas just because it seems like everyone and their mom has mudded them up. And there's a good plethora of people out there who are purists who are already doing the work on it. And honestly, I'm just trying to make it sound better because I'm only breeding boas that are pretty boas that are pet people love. And that's what I care about, is making pretty ones. On the boas, black boas, white boas, red boas, pink boas.
There you go. We got one for everybody. Yeah, those of you in the chat, if you think there's other chats, I think it's because we're streaming on 4 channels. So I don't know if StreamYard's pulling the chats in from all the other channels and putting them into one or what. But
What other channels are we streaming on besides Cold Blooded?
well, we got Cold Blooded, we got Rafi's channel, we got mine, and we got Holly's channel, Texoma Exotics, looks like. So we got 4 YouTube channels that we're streaming on, half a person per channel. So
Wait,
we got 5 people watching.
You each have a YouTube channel, and then Cold Blooded has its own YouTube channel?
That's right. That's right.
What do you do on your own YouTube channel?
I don't do anything yet. I have 2 podcasts on my YouTube channel right now. This is the second one.
This is the second one.
The second episode.
I'm the same way. I'd never say I have a YouTube channel because like I have one, only because I set one up so I could comment as Parpart's Pristine Pythons. But like, I ain't never posted a video one, nothing. I never even went through and finished setting it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, we wanted people to have choices, kind of like Morph Market and Reptileads, or what is it called? Oh, Reptile Ads. How's that going anyway? Being that you're a sponsor, let's do a plug for Reptile Ads.
Reptile Ads, the fastest growing reptile online marketplace in the world.
And what's so unique about it? Why do I care?
You care because you like making money. You care because you like to put your snakes in front of as many people as possible. You care because if people are buying snakes on this site and people are buying snakes on that site, but it's different people on each site, why would you not want to advertise on both sites? That's why you care. You care because it's free right now and it doesn't cost you any money to make money. You care because it's simple, it's fast, it's easy to use. If you hate auctions and you think they're not good for the community, you really care, get your ass over there right now because we don't do it. It's not something we believe in or participate in. But nothing against you if you do. There's a place for everybody. If you want to use both outlets, use both outlets. You want to use our outlet, use our outlet. It's user-friendly, it's safe, it's easy, it's intuitive. You can have your animals uploaded in just a couple of minutes, even if you have a few hundred. And, it's just a nice place to be. It's fun. We have toys and gifts, small children.
That's right. You can sell other things besides reptiles on Reptile Ads, right? You can sell supplies. You can sell
supplies, dry goods, feeder section will be done soon. That's most of it. It's the supplies, dry goods, feeders. We do have an insect. We do have a section for, your arachnids, your insects, invertebrates, stuff like that. Okay. Plus, all your reptile categories you would expect, all of your main categories. We don't have a lot of bloated categories that some of the other sites have, that you might go to and see no animals listed. We'll expand those as the need arises. So, we try to keep bloat down as much as possible. We don't need to have a specific category for the Indonesian African king, mantra, snake, python, colubrid, and when none available in the world. So we try to keep it simpler, easier to use, not a lot of bloated stuff, less extra this and that that's not related to selling a snake. And that allowed us to, really keep our costs super cheap. It's free right now, but when it does start costing, it'll be super cheap comparable to anywhere else.
All right. Well, hey, I look forward to it. And
dark mode. I love dark mode too. It's easy on the eyes. It's nice.
Like it is. The default is dark mode. I think you can surf in the middle of the night when you've got some insomnia, and you won't wake up your wife or your husband.
You can turn it on light mode. You can turn it on light mode, Nikki. It's okay. We'll allow it. I thought Nikki was the only one. Like Nikki, I was like, Nikki was making me some videos, and I was like, Nikki, why are all these videos in light mode? Is that my website? She's like, oh, I use light mode. I was like, people use light mode? But then I saw somebody else doing it the other day, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm the weirdo.
No, you turn the intensity down on the phone, and you go in dark mode, and you can surf till 3 a.m.
That's right.
Great. That's right. And also going to thank Holly from Texoma Exotics, our other sponsor. She's helping us out a lot backstage and doing a lot of the logistical stuff. So much appreciated for that. And I think
I want you to go check out Holly's Reptile Ad store and see if she has any
ball
pythons for sale.
Oh, you said it. She turned in for the evening, but
Oh, she wasn't even here for me talking shit. All right.
but yeah, that's right.
I take my shameless plug for
Dark
Holly
stuff.
back. Go
What's
shop
that?
my reptile ads, buy my snakes.
Yeah, go check them all out. There's even one overpriced Sanzinia on Reptile Ads by Python Susie. All right. With that said, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We had, I think, pretty good for episode 2. Zach, you were a lot of fun as usual. Can't shut your ass up. So, with that said, thanks everybody. We're going to close down episode 2. Take care, everybody.